Is Harry O'Brien, the star defender from the Magpies, is our special guest tonight on One Week at a Time, and you're embarrassing us. Look at the way you're dressed, mate. We're all just casual.
Yeah, mate. I wanted to dress for the occasion. You know, I'm in a room with some wise guys, and it's going to be a serious footy conversation. So I thought I'd represent myself best with a suit.
Hey Rob, so much for the suspect defence.
Yes,
we all thought that might
right.
be the Achilles heel on the weekend.
Yeah.
That was outstanding.
Yeah, you must have been happy with the way it all turned out, Harry, because, Leon had missed a few games, your skipper had missed a fair bit, and obviously he's sure more than anybody, but you restricted the Eagles to just 9 goals, and your teammates all came through really well.
Yeah, it was a fantastic effort. You know, going into the game, a lot of people thought it was a risk to bring in those players that haven't played. So, yeah, it was just fantastic to see the way that they went about it. But I never doubted the boys' ability down back to get the job done. And we've all played a lot of football together, and we've got a lot of team chemistry, so that makes a huge difference.
Tell you what, Harry, I doubted your captain's ability to play with a broken thumb in such a short space of time, and that's without knowing what he'd gone through. But it was an incredibly quick return, and just thought it's a massive, massive risk. Saw him running around the practice game. I've got to absolutely take my hat off to him. It was a fantastic effort. Can you talk us through how big an effort that was to be able to play after such a short amount of time? Yeah,
look, I've said it, a few times publicly. I'm probably Maxy's biggest fan.
You said he was the most important player.
Yeah, I'm not just saying that because his people, commentators are giving him heat. I truly believe that. I know the impact that he has on our playing group, and I have the privilege of playing alongside him and see how he makes me a better player, and also the back six. So, yeah, I did mean that. And just
how does he make you a better player?
It's like having, I've said it before, it's like having a coach on the field. An example would be on the weekend there was around about the 50-metre up, the ball was there bubbling around, and I was getting sucked into the contest, and I hear this H. And I turn around and Mark Lacroix's by himself inside 50, and I just ran back. Just little things like that the average punter doesn't pick up, but it's so valuable. That's why it was part of the reason why we were able to restrict them to 9 goals.
Ben Reid missed the game. Do you think he'll be back for the preliminary?
I'm not too sure. He's got a bit of a groin, tweaked his groin a bit. I saw him, in his jocks in the change room icing it up, so it wasn't a good sight. But I'm sure the club. I've got full faith. We all have faith in the club and the way that we're able to get players back. Like we saw, Maxy come back early, and players are able to shorten the amount of time it takes.
One of your great strengths, Harry, you can play on Stephen Milne one week or Mark Lacroix, and you can also take the big boys when they come down. You had Nick Natanui for giving away a fair bit of size and strength. What do you prefer? What do you feel more comfortable
with?
It's
a great scene with the hair, isn't it?
They look like your twin brothers. Who do you rather play on, the smalls or the talls?
Oh, just the ones that don't run. You don't get that too often in today's game, but I find myself mostly playing on the smalls. It's really hard because as defenders we don't really rotate as much, but the forwards, they might get a burst player, for example, like Eddie Betts, who he can with 4 kicks he can kick 4 goals. So you've got to be concentrating, and I think that's the hardest thing being a defender now in the modern game, and being a young player coming in, is that you lose concentration, and all it takes, like I said, someone like Stephen Milne and Eddie Betts, all they need is 3 goals, 3 kicks, and they'll get 3 goals.
Well, the forwards tell you that it's harder being a forward, but the backman will tell you in the AFL that it's much more stressful being a backman. Which way is it?
I wouldn't like to be a backman because I think your mistakes are highlighted because your opponent can kick goals. But you're under the pump a bit towards the end of that game, Harry, when the Eagles got within 8 points of you. Yeah. And just talking to you off camera, you were saying that physically they really knocked you around with their 100 tackles for the game.
Yeah, they out-tackled us by 30 with 100 tackles, and trust me, you do feel that. The finals intensity, we all know, is completely different to during the season, and the Eagles play at such a high intensity, and they are a genuine contender. Obviously, if you finish top 4, you're going to be that, but they're a force to be reckoned with.
Harry, you've got a lot of great passions in life, and obviously one of them's the Collingwood Football Club and all the great stuff you do at the end of the year, and travel and work for charity. Could you split the two? Is there one that's more important to you? Do you play footy to have an impact on the world, or do you have an impact on the world by playing footy?
I think firstly, I'd like to say I think we all have the ability to make an impact on the world. You don't have to be a footballer or a doctor or whatever occupation. I think we can all do that in some way. I do believe that that's the most important thing in life, to be able to help someone else and contribute to your society in a positive way. So I'd say that, but they're not mutually exclusive. You know, football allows me to be able to do that on a larger scale, and I'm really grateful for that position. So as long as I'm as long as I have this privilege of being able to play for the biggest football club in Australia, biggest sporting brand in Australia, I'm going to use that in a positive way.
How are we going with racism in football, Harry? The AFL have made arguably the greatest impact on any sporting code in the world to stamp it out. We saw on the weekend again, unfortunately, there was it sounds like a couple of Collingwood supporters were having a go at Nick Nat and Nui. How do you think it's all going at the moment?
Yeah, look, I'm not, to be honest, I'm not surprised. We still hear of people being racist, you know, yelling racial taunts. Racism is not, I suppose, it's exclusive to AFL or Collingwood supporters. This is an issue that we see in society, and you can find isolated incidences in religion, in politics, in education, and you'll find them. They're isolated incidences of ignorance. And I think the best way to eradicate ignorance is through creating awareness. So whoever yelled those things out to Nick Nat, I truly believe that that person, if they were taken and put into an environment where they have a direct experience and actually see, I suppose, their commonalities with Nick Nat and probably his family, then their awareness will be open, their eyes will be open, and they will feel that connection. So they'll refrain from using that sort of language or that sort of behaviour.
Have you been on the receiving end of before, Harry?
I have, many times, yeah, I have.
Even today, playing AFL football,
I have. Look, early on in my career, I have heard things, even playing in the VFL, starting off, things yelled out to me from behind the fence. But look, that's the one thing that I'm very critical of in terms of the media is we seem to be very reactive to isolated incidences. We should be focusing the majority of our attention on being proactive and educating people. The media has a responsibility, because they have a power of influence, to give people this direct experience so they don't feel that disconnection. So when it comes time to say something, when it comes time for them to open their mouth and use a word that that we don't agree with, they'll think twice, because they have that direct experience.
You had a great stoush with Neil Mitchell via Twitter, and you actually went on his program a couple of weeks ago. It was fantastic listening, actually, one of Australia's top radio men. How do you find the role in the media? Do you think we're responsible enough?
Yeah, look, I don't see the media as a separate entity. I think we're all in the same team, and I'm critical because I look at it, we're all in the same team. So Nick Maxwell can yell at me or constructively on the field and say, hey, pick up your play or pick up your man, but I won't take that personally. He's just trying to assist me in getting the best out of myself. And I honestly believe that the media needs to be held accountable for using their power of influence in society in a constructive way.
We're upset with Neil. He was the one that named a couple of Collingwood players after last year's grand final, before the case had been heard, and obviously no one else had decided to do that. Was that the main source of the frustration?
No, not at all. I actually used that as a decoy to be able to. I wanted to engage him, and firstly it was because I didn't think that the crisis in East Africa was being given enough legs. So I thought I would use what happened last year to get onto his program, and then I could use that as a platform. Everyone would be listening, expecting us to go head to head, but then I could then speak about and raise awareness to something far greater than an individual battle of morality.
A lot of players complain that a distinct lack of privacy in the way media report issues these days. What about the players themselves? Do you think they handle things pretty well? Is there any room for improvement, do you think, player aspect?
There's always room for improvement. As Mick Moldhouse says, if you stand still, people will go past you, and that's because the fact of life is things evolve, and we're all evolving, and I think that there's always room for improvement in every area of life. So these are things that we'll see. People are going to stuff up. There's going to be AFL players that make mistakes. There's
plenty of media that stuff up too.
There is, there is, but we're all human. But the thing is, people will make mistakes. But I generally feel, from when I first came into the AFL system in 2004 to now, players are far more educated on responsibility with women, responsible drinking, and the plethora of issues that we see come up. But I think the scrutiny is far greater. So you're seeing it, coming up in the media more often.
Harry, do you think about the evolvement of the coaching position at Collingwood? I'm sure every day someone would talk to you about it, but is it something that is on your mind? And Nathan taking over next year, if someone was to say, well, what do you think would be the immediate 2 or 3 changes or differences, what would they be?
That's a really good question, Robert. I do. It is in the back of my mind, because I know that there will be, I suppose, a changing of the baton. But having said that, you're in the midst, you've played in finals, you're in the midst of one of the most important times of your life, and nothing else matters really, especially myself being a single man. I can focus all my attention on my preparation for this final series. And it's such a special time, and you don't have time to think about, you try not to use your energy towards thinking about things that you can't control. So I haven't, it's in the back of my mind. I know there will be a baton swap. I've got full faith, that Nathan will be a fantastic coach. The way he's conducting himself as an assistant coach has been, outstanding, extremely professional, and Mick has been really professional. And I wish really, the public who ask the questions could actually see how professional these two have been and how they've worked together. And that's not disregarding any of the other assistant coaches we have. They've been fantastic as well in this. But it is an exciting time.
We must take a break. Harry, stick with us. We're going to take a break on 1 week at a time.
Is that a backman's worst nightmare, the long ball coming in consistently?
Yeah, I guess it is. But, as backmen, we're at the mercy of the pressure up the field. So that's why it's so important to have that frontal pressure and the mids, covering the space. So, yeah, it can get pretty ugly if there's no pressure there. You do get exposed as a defence, and that's happened a couple of times for us. Fortunately, only a couple of times, but you do see defences getting exposed.
Is there any one thing you do that Mick comes to you after a game, gives you a cuddle and says, love that, Harry?
Probably just playing tight on my man and winning the one-on-ones. Mick, the way he's coached all throughout his coaching career has been, the foundation has been on one-on-one football, even though we now, the teams play, the press and all of that, but you have to be able to win your contest. So as long as I'm winning my contest, Mick has got a smile on his face. Yeah, look, I don't know if I could put a percentage on it. All I know is that when you're playing for something, we see it Anzac Day as well. The game gets built up, and no matter where teams are on the ladder, you always get the heavy contest. But I can't. It's too hard to say a percentage, but there's a huge difference. Yeah.
Now, Harry, you're a very intelligent, well thought out young man. I've got Harry's hard questions here in front of me. I'm going to try and get just a succinct answer from you, so we'll keep it to about 20 seconds.
No problem.
Here we go. Is Tom Scully worth $6 million over 6 years?
Yes.
Is the succession coaching plan at Collingwood a good thing?
Yes.
Should the AFL players accept the $1.14 billion?
I can't win.
I like it, mate. It's good. It's succinct.
You seem to be succinct. Not too succinct.
He stunned me with how succinct he is, and I'm going to run out of questions. Right. Should the players accept the $1.14 billion on the offer from the AFL?
Look, I think it's a bit more complex than that. You got to take other things into account. And look, I think I've got full faith in the AFLPA and their experts. I'm certainly not going to get into the finance world, but I've got faith that they will deliver the best for us.
Very well answered. Is the season too long? And if it is, what would you do? Scrap the NAB Cup, less games, shorter matches?
To be honest, I'd love to see a longer season. I sort of think of, if there were 30 games, then list management comes more into play. You see stars or players being rested. You get younger players coming in, and I suppose it forces you to perhaps coach a bit more.
Geez, Andrew Demetra is going to love you. Imagine the more money to get with 30 games a year.
Longer years, about half the players are just falling off their couch.
That's just an idea, because I sort of think I'd like to see more lists being utilised. There's such a turnover and players don't get to get their opportunity. And I was so fortunate being a rookie that, you know, Mick took a punt, I suppose, with me. But there's lots of people that don't get their opportunity on the big stage. So I think perhaps if you had a longer season, it would force, you know, other players to get tried.
Thank you, Harry. Appreciate you coming in. Good luck in the next few weeks, mate.
Good luck, Harry.
We'll see you next week, once again, Monday night, 1 week at a time.